My friends, we stand today at a crossroads where the forces of our lives have brought us to a solemn and critical moment of decision. Our journey, a path shaped by the choices we make, calls upon us to turn our hearts toward wisdom, to cast aside the chains of error, and to rise above the temptations that seek to drag us down. I stand before you not as one who claims to know the depths of all things, but as one who, like each of you, is searching for the light in the darkness. And today, I implore you to remove those things that draw the shadows close, for they are not mere trinkets or decorations, but instruments that invite the very forces of chaos into our lives. Look about you, for the world is full of distractions, these seemingly innocent objects and desires that, when left unchecked, ensnare the soul. We are surrounded by the clamor of noise, the pull of material indulgence, and the allure of darkness, all of which seek to plant their roots deep within the fertile ground of our hearts. They promise us comfort, they promise us joy, but in truth, they bring nothing but emptiness. These things, though they may glitter and shine, are like false beacons that lead the ship of our life upon the rocks. Let us not be deceived. What we place in our homes, what we cherish in our hearts, has the power to shape the very essence of who we are. We cannot simply stand idly by and allow ourselves to be consumed by the appetites of the world, for they will strip us of our strength, our resolve, and our capacity for true goodness. There are certain things, certain habits, certain attachments that open the door to darker forces than we can ever comprehend. If we are to preserve our peace, our virtue, and our spirit, we must take a firm stand. In your own homes, look closely, examine carefully. Are there items that do not serve your good? Are there possessions that fill the space around you but leave emptiness in your soul? These objects may seem harmless at first, but their influence, subtle as it may be, cannot be underestimated. They carry with them a weight of energy and intent, drawing our attention, filling our minds with thoughts that pull us from the path of righteousness. Understand that it is not just the physical presence of these things that is dangerous. No, it is the hold they take over us, the attachment they form in our hearts that invites the unrest. They give voice to desires that lead to bitterness, to greed, to anger, to envy, forces that tear apart the very fabric of our character and our relationships with one another. It is time, my friends, to rid ourselves of these temptations. We must turn our backs on them, for to do so is not only an act of cleanliness, but one of courage. The demons that dwell in the shadows, waiting for us to falter, grow stronger when we yield. But when we stand tall, when we reject that which harms our spirit, we find within ourselves a power greater than any force of darkness. You, each of you, possess the ability to choose. Let that choice be for the good. Remove those items, those habits, those influences that draw you away from your higher calling. In doing so, you will find a peace that cannot be disturbed, a strength that cannot be broken, and a spirit that soars free, unshackled from the chains of darkness. Our lives are a direct result of the choices we make. The path we walk today, the circumstances that surround us, and the challenges we face are shaped by the decisions we have made in the past, both great and small. Each moment we stand at a crossroads, where our decisions can propel us toward a better future or lead us astray into places of darkness and confusion. It is not merely fate or chance that governs our lives, but the power within us to choose. Every decision, no matter how seemingly insignificant, contributes to the greater story of who we are becoming. Choices are not always easy. At times we are tempted by the promises of ease, of comfort, and of satisfaction in the moment. These temptations may come disguised as fleeting pleasures, material possessions, or the pursuit of things that feel satisfying at first, but leave us empty in the end. In these moments, it is easy to forget that every choice we make has a ripple effect on our hearts, our minds, and the people around us. The decisions we make, however small they may seem, are never without consequence. They either draw us closer to the light of virtue and fulfillment, or lead us further into the shadows of regret, fear, and uncertainty. What we allow into our lives, whether in the form of objects, habits, or influences, shapes our spirit. We often think of things as simply material, but their energy and impact are far greater than we realize. The books we read, the media we consume, the company we keep, and the things we surround ourselves with all affect our hearts and minds. When we invite negativity, confusion, or immorality into our lives, we are inviting forces that will erode our ability to think clearly, act justly, and live with integrity. It is in these moments that we must make the conscious choice to rid ourselves of what does not serve our good. Choosing wisely requires self-awareness. It calls upon us to examine our lives honestly and to ask difficult questions. Are we allowing things that weaken our spirit? Are we surrounding ourselves with distractions that pull us away from our purpose? It is easy to fall into patterns of convenience, to choose what is familiar, comfortable, or readily available. But this path often leads to stagnation or decline. True growth and strength come not from complacency, but from the ability to make intentional choices that align with our values, our highest aspirations, and the life we truly wish to lead. At the same time, it is important to understand that not all choices are immediately clear. Sometimes the best path forward is not the most obvious one. It requires discernment, patience, and a willingness to stand firm in the face of uncertainty. When we are confronted with a decision, we must not act out of fear, haste, or impulse. Instead, we must take the time to reflect, to ask ourselves if this choice will move us toward the life we desire, or if it will bring us further away from it. It is often in the quiet moments of reflection that we discover the truth of what lies before us. The power of choice lies not just in the big decisions, but in the small ones as well. Every day we are faced with opportunities to decide who we want to be, how we want to act, and what kind of person we wish to become. In each of these moments, we have the power to shape our future. It is through the accumulation of small choices that we build the life we lead. Therefore, it is imperative to recognize the significance of each choice and to take responsibility for the direction in which it leads us. As we walk through life, we must remember that the ability to choose is one of the greatest gifts we possess. It allows us to steer our lives in the direction we choose, to shape our character, and to determine our legacy. In the face of uncertainty, let us not forget that we are never powerless. Even when the world around us feels beyond our control, we always have the power to choose. Let those choices be made with clarity, courage, and wisdom, for it is through the choices we make that we create the life we desire, one step at a time. We are often told that things, objects, possessions, and material wealth hold no true value beyond their ability to provide comfort or utility. Yet, if we take a moment to truly examine the role these things play in our lives, we will begin to understand that their influence extends far beyond the physical. The objects we accumulate and the attachments we form around them are not neutral. They carry energy, meaning, and an unseen power that shapes our lives in ways we may not fully comprehend. What we choose to possess, hold dear, and surround ourselves with impacts not only our physical surroundings, but also the state of our hearts and minds. We live in a world that constantly pushes us to acquire more, to accumulate, to consume, and to keep up with the latest trends or possessions. Advertisements, media, and the opinions of others all encourage us to desire more and more things. The message is clear: happiness and fulfillment lie in ownership. However, as we pursue these material goals, we often fail to recognize how these things start to possess us, rather than the other way around. The objects we surround ourselves with, whether they are expensive clothes, new technology, or seemingly harmless knickknacks, begin to take on a life of their own, slowly creeping into our hearts and minds until we are no longer in control. When we form attachments to possessions, we are not just holding on to things, we are allowing them to define us. Our worth, self-possession, and happiness often become tied to the things we own. We begin to measure our success by the material wealth we accumulate, the brands we wear, or the status symbols we display. In doing so, we disconnect from what is truly valuable in life, the intangible qualities of love, peace, integrity, and purpose. These possessions, instead of serving us, begin to dictate our choices, our desires, and even our relationships. But the danger lies not just in the physical objects themselves, but in the attachment we form to them. It is the emotional bond we build with these things that leads us astray. This attachment can grow to such an extent that we begin to define ourselves by what we have. It is as if we believe that without these possessions we are incomplete, unworthy, or less than we should be. The more we invest in these things, the more we risk losing ourselves in the pursuit of an external identity, one that is based on what we own rather than who we are. This attachment can become a powerful force in our lives, drawing us away from our true purpose and clouding our judgment. The more we hold on to these objects and desires, the harder it becomes to break free. We find ourselves in a cycle of wanting, acquiring, and maintaining, where the pursuit of possessions takes precedence over our inner growth and peace. This constant cycle not only distracts us from what truly matters, but also leaves us vulnerable to forces that lead us down a path of dissatisfaction, discontent, and spiritual emptiness. It is important to recognize that not all possessions are inherently bad. It is not the possession of things that is harmful, but the attachment and dependence we place on them. We must ask ourselves, do these objects bring us closer to the person we want to be? Do they support our highest aspirations, our integrity, and our purpose? Or do they serve as distractions, pulling us further from our true self? When we start to view possessions not as a source of identity, but as tools to help us live a fuller, more meaningful life, we regain control. We can enjoy what we have without allowing it to define us or take root in our hearts. The truth is, possessions and attachments can attract more than just material desires. They can invite emotional turmoil, spiritual confusion, and a loss of direction. The constant chase for more, the need to keep up, the fear of losing what we have, all of these feelings take up space in our hearts, leaving little room for peace, gratitude, or joy. When we remove the unnecessary attachments and possessions from our lives, we clear space not only in our homes but in our hearts and minds as well. In this clarity, we rediscover what is truly important: our relationships, our purpose, and our connection to something greater than ourselves. Thus, it is not about the things we own, but about the power these things hold over us. The more we let go of possessions that do not serve us, the more we free ourselves to embrace the life we are meant to live. When we choose to live without the weight of unnecessary attachments, we open ourselves to a life of greater freedom, clarity, and peace. By focusing on what truly matters, we are able to live a life that reflects who we are, not what we own. The temptations that we face in life are not always obvious, nor are they always as dangerous as they seem at first. Sometimes they arrive wrapped in the guise of comfort, satisfaction, or quick pleasure, promising us a momentary escape from our struggles, our worries, or the discomfort of reality. Yet these fleeting satisfactions are often deceptive, leading us to a place of emptiness rather than fulfillment. The world we live in is full of such temptations, each calling us to indulge, to seek more, to chase after that which may give us momentary pleasure, but ultimately distances us from peace, purpose, and clarity. It is in the quiet moments of life, when we are least prepared, that the allure of temptation is often the strongest. We live in a society that promotes immediate gratification, that encourages us to seek satisfaction in the now, to avoid discomfort, and to pursue whatever makes us feel good in the moment. Whether it is a material possession, a fleeting relationship, or the pursuit of power, fame, or success, the world constantly tells us that we should want more, that our lives will be better when we have more, or that we will be more fulfilled if we follow certain desires. But in truth, the more we chase after these things, the more we lose sight of what is truly important. Temptations come in many forms. Some are subtle, creeping into our lives slowly over time, while others hit us all at once with an overwhelming force. Some temptations come as distractions, pulling us away from our higher calling by filling our minds with noise, confusion, and desires that have little substance. Others are more insidious, promising us happiness, success, or validation, but always leaving us feeling unfulfilled. The danger of these temptations is that they often appear harmless or even beneficial at first. What begins as a small indulgence, a harmless distraction, can quickly grow into a consuming force that overtakes our lives and alters our priorities. We must understand that temptations are not just about the objects or desires themselves. They are about the hold they take on us. When we indulge in them, we open ourselves to the influence of forces that pull us away from our true selves. The more we give in to these temptations, the more we lose sight of our purpose and values. What begins as a small compromise becomes a larger erosion of character and integrity, slowly shifting our focus from what is truly meaningful to what is merely pleasurable or convenient. The pursuit of these fleeting joys is like chasing shadows, always just out of reach, and when we catch them, they provide no lasting satisfaction. The real danger of temptations lies in their ability to obscure our judgment and cloud our vision. When we are driven by a desire for instant gratification or fleeting pleasure, we lose the ability to see the bigger picture. Our decisions become reactive, driven by emotion or impulse, rather than thoughtful and intentional. We begin to act in ways that are contrary to our values, compromising our integrity and sacrificing long-term fulfillment for short-term gains. In this state, we can no longer clearly see the path before us, and we risk straying from the course that would lead us to true peace and fulfillment. Moreover, these temptations are not only personal, but can have a profound impact on those around us. Our choices, our indulgences, and our attachments to fleeting desires affect the relationships we have with others. When we are consumed by the pursuit of what does not truly matter, we may neglect those we love, lose sight of our responsibilities, or fail to offer the support and kindness that others need from us. Temptations can isolate us, leading us away from meaningful connections and towards a life of self-centeredness and disconnection.